What up, world? It's your boy Shake back with the good homie, Brooklyn Wolf the Collector, and this is the second episode of the WaggleFest podcast. Just to remind y'all, the views and opinions of this podcast are ours and do not reflect the opinions of any game developers, any inside information, or any company. These are my goddamn thoughts. If you are offended by controversial takes on gaming, broken English, and or gratuitous cussing, you should turn away now. However, if you are indeed here for the shits, please join us, entertain us, and thank you. And welcome to the second episode of the WaggleFest pod. What up, Brooklyn Wolf?
How's it going, Wag?
Oh, wait, yo,
Actually, no, I wanted to call you Shogun of Flatbush.
The show. Listen, I'm the hood otaku. And today we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct, the huge Direct that happened last week, Friday. There's been lots of discourse going around about it, the things that were revealed. Some people thought it was the best thing ever. Some people thought it was the worst thing ever. It's been pretty divisive, but I definitely wanted to take a moment to chop it up with the good homie and let's share our hits and misses and just talk about it a bit. What did you think about the Direct overall?
I want to say uninspired because the Direct, sorry, not the Direct, but the first year of the Switch 1 was magical. It was just phenomenal. And the best way for me to describe going into this Switch 2 Direct for the latter, the remaining of the year and games in the future, the best way to describe it was the Mario 40th anniversary celebration. And then when they showed us what the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 collection, my immediate thought was, okay, cool, we're getting Galaxy 2 on the Switch/Switch 2. But then I'm over here thinking, why are they packing it in with a game that came out on a 3D All-Stars compilation, right? And I'm over here thinking there were 100 of other options they could have chosen to be companion games for Galaxy 2, because that's going to be the main game, and they could have chosen a thousand other possibilities. But they went with Galaxy 1. And it just felt very uninspired. I'm kind of leaning on the word lazy, and that's not really a good word to describe games and game developers and what have you. But it just felt uninspired. And I think this Switch 2 Direct, it was good, but it didn't... Maybe I was entering it with really high expectations. I kind of walked away feeling slightly underwhelmed, and as we continue talking, I will touch upon other things that made me feel this way. Let me hear your thoughts.
Now, listen, it's funny. I actually, so I watched the Direct twice, and while I think it was a good Direct for the most part, like it would get a passing grade, I don't think that it's what I expected, nor do I think Nintendo communicated on what needed to be communicated for this first year of the Switch. So I agree with you, and I think that it's uninspired. And let's talk about the Mario 40th anniversary celebration, because that's what they opened up with. And to be quite honest, I just want to say that it was great to see Miyamoto for sure. It was cool to see some of the things that they were doing around the Nintendo Museum. But I just couldn't help but feel like they really dropped the ball. And especially when it came to your point, Mario Galaxy 2, right? Last week in last week's episode, you mentioned like maybe they could do, Mario 3D Land or something like that, right? And I agreed with you in that regard. And I think the thing that bothers me more than anything about them showing off Galaxy 2, and now we know that, there's some polish that they threw on the game. I'm like, it's the price. I'm like 80, no, so it's $70, right? And again, this is not a Switch 2 game. This is a Switch 1 game that is obviously Switch 2 compatible. However, the thing that really bothers me about this, just in principle, is that again, 5 years ago, you put out 3 games for 60. This time you're putting out two for 70. And
Yeah.
individually, each game is $40. And on top of that, the amiibo for Mario Galaxy are $40 a piece. And I've mentioned this before, and like there's been a lot of conversation about this week about, oh, is Nintendo getting too expensive? Is it pricing out its fans? I did a YouTube video about that like 2 weeks ago because I already saw the pattern that was happening. But like when you're asking your core consumer base to either choose between a game or an amiibo that is at the same price point,
Hmm.
there is a fucking problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if someone goes into a store or if a little kid goes into a store with their parent and like let's say hypothetically this is coming off of the Mario movie, right? If you are asking them to get the $70 game and one of the amiibo, you're over $100,
Hmm.
right? Or if there is a world in which they want to get the digital version and they want the amiibo, again, I feel like it's crazy. And the other thing that no one has actually even made mention of in regards to the 3D All-Star collection, and to me, this is the thing that actually pisses me off even more, is that people seem to forget that the 3D All-Star collection has been updated since the Switch 2 came out because they made it compatible with the GameCube controller.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that why can't I think of what was Mario Sunshine can be played, with the default controls on NSO GameCube controller. So it's like they've already worked on 3D All Stars this year, very recently, but they're repackaging this, or repackaging Galaxy with Galaxy 2 at this crazy price point. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. 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 It's and we spoke about this uh privately without doing any recording session. I expressed that I'm not really thrilled with this trajectory. I feel like it's they're in a better position than they ever were when compared to the Wii U, which was coming off the Wii. And I feel like they're kind of just a little bit arrogant now. Like the pricing structure is just a little, it's just a bit much, right? And then before for the past 2 years before the Switch 2 came out, we had all these behind the scenes discussions and rumors and leaks on how the Switch 2 is intentionally being held back because Nintendo wants the software to be at its best and giving third party developers more time to polish the game and so forth and so forth. But then I don't know. I don't know. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Right when it launched, it was so awesome. It was like we were on this high, if you will, right? This brand new high. And then as we move along in the year, I'm like over here thinking, okay, open up the floodgates, right? This is what it's all been building up to. And again, privately, I was like, when we were talking about the Switch 2 Direct that was coming, that just passed, I thought that this was going to be the one that will knock us off of our feet. I thought that this was going to be the one that's going to even shut up the naysayers about the Switch, right? Just like, these are all the games that are coming out. And that's not to say that there weren't any, I guess, quote unquote gems shown, like for example, FF7, RE7. Oh, which again, there was another 7 in there, right? There's RE7, Dragon Quest 7, and FF7, right? And
Yeah.
and RE8. But I guess I might as well just talk about it now. But personally, I was like thinking, why omit RE2, RE3, RE4? And I was hoping to see Devil May Cry. And I guess it's because, you know, they want to spread out those games, right? And you know, I guess that's normal, that's fine. But just me personally, I was like, oh man, I wanted to see those to really make a big statement on third party support, especially from Capcom's side. But again, I don't know. I just feel like in terms of pricing and what we saw in the direct in terms of first party games, I was just a bit whelmed. Not over, not.
I got you. I mean, listen, in regards to the Capcom showing, I think it was cool that they actually had a third party end the show, because actually they didn't have a third party end the show because they did show off a first party title, but it was kind of ramping up to their grand finale. And one last thing,
Yeah.
I do think that it was pretty odd to me that Capcom would be releasing RE7 alongside Requiem on the same day. Like it's weird to me because
Wait. Same day?
Yes, they're
missed
all
that.
releasing. Yeah, like if I'm not mistaken. And I think the thing that to your point, I think, you know, I was hoping for obviously RE2, 3, and 4 remake. I thought it would have been cool if they had done a staggered release. And maybe there's a world in which there is some sort of communication before the end of the year or even early next year. I don't know. But it definitely, the direct in as a whole was pretty odd, because I think I have two major takeaways about the direct, and before I reveal what they are, I definitely want to kind of touch on some of the other things that they had shown, only because I'm starting to think that Nintendo is changing its positionality in the gaming landscape, right? And I think that it is a subtle shift that we're seeing. I think that we're all feeling it, but we can't necessarily put words to it. But I'm paying attention to it. But I do want to talk about some of the other things they showed. Like they showed Mario Aces Fever, which seems like Camelot is taking a cue from Mario Kart just in general, and as opposed to using like weapons per se, it's the rackets that have, you know, like whatever effect. I think that that's a cool addition. But the problem is, again, like, for me, and I enjoy Mario Aces. I enjoyed Mario Aces on the Switch. It's not going to be a day one purchase. Like, it's a game that I'll eventually get. Maybe it'll be a game that I get like not even next year in 2027 when I'm like, you know, it's on sale for the holidays for $29.99 on Target or something. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely not going to be a game that like I go out to get. Like the Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, again, incredible art direction as always with the Yoshi games. But to like, again, I'm just underwhelmed. It seems like and I'm here for games that are targeting kids and are educational. But for my personal interest, I was just like, eh. So I was just kind of like, as a whole, I'm like, yeah, we got release dates for Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is very cool. I'm glad that it's coming out this year. We also know that Metroid Prime 4 is also coming out this year. And I think in totality, right, like I could never say a year that has Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, a new Metroid Prime, and a Hyrule Warriors game, and even a Pokemon game, even if I'm not a Pokemon fan. I can't say that that's a bad year for Nintendo.
It's not.
Right?
It's not. Not at all. It's not.
But,
I think. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just that I think I was expecting something along the lines of like an Astral Chain, right? Like something that is not Nintendo, but it's not published. Yeah, published, right? Published by Nintendo.
Yeah, it's published by
right?
Nintendo.
Something new and refreshing. You know, again, like you're saying, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon, those are givens. They're gonna do phenomenally when they come out, right? Like they already showed them in the first direct, and we know they're gonna come out. We finally got a release date, which I'm kind of glad that they kept those presentations to just a few minutes. They didn't drag it out, because, you know, we know that we know they're coming out. You know, even with the Hyrule Warriors game. What was it
Yeah,
something?
Age of Imprisonment. Yep.
Yeah, Age of Imprisonment, right? Yeah, we know those games are coming out. I wanted to see something again, like an Astral Chain type of inspired kind of game where it's new and exciting. You know what I mean? And you're right. Like how can we as Nintendo fans say, oh my God, you already got like Donkey Kong, which is a phenomenal game, right? You have Metroid on the horizon, you have Kirby, you have Pokemon, right? Yeah.
I mean,
And
Pokemon, like
no, Z Pokemon's. Oh my God! And then of course you have Fire Emblem. And you know what? Let me just get this out of the way first. Sorry, let me just get this one out of the way. Fire Emblem, great. I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. But the thing is, as I spoke to you in private, I think the art style. If I did a 3 minute montage, if I just spliced all the footage from three houses, Engage, right, and another like another Fire Emblem game, it's like they all look very similar to one another. You can't like I guess a casual gamer, right, that sees it be like what, they're different games. No, they're separate. They're they're different games, but they look the same. I think they need a refresh in terms of their aesthetics. Another anime artist, perhaps, right? Or if you want to try a bit more the more mature, quote unquote, mature anime style, right, where it's not quite anime, but it's anime. But this, it's like they've been using the same artist for the past few games, and I feel like it's getting just a little stale in terms of aesthetics, right? The gameplay, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be phenomenal because you can't go wrong with Fire Emblem, right? But in terms of design, the graphics, it's just gotta change it up. You need a refresh. So, you know, just like oh my God, like look at Dragon Quest 7. That looks so good.
It's so
Right?
funny that you bring up Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined, right? Like
Yeah.
so again, so I got introduced to Fire Emblem honestly on a Switch with Three Houses, and I fell in love with the franchise after that. Like that was coming off of, because honestly, I hadn't played like strategy games much at all. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But the game that kind of was my initial hit was Mario plus Rabbids, and then when I realized that Fire Emblem was a similar style of game, just kind of like turn-based strategy, I really fell in love with it, and I went down a rabbit hole and bought a bunch of games like that. But to your point, I really do think that you're right. I think that Fire Emblem, and that's why I wasn't wowed by it. I think we've seen it before. It is a tried and true formula. It's a
Mhm.
cool game, and I'm sure it's going to be excellent. Like the character development and character arcs are always fun. But again, I think that what you're saying is the same sentiment that a lot of people have, and I just wanted something new, right? Because Dragon Drive is not it, obviously, right? Like that game hasn't even, I have not seen that game on the top of the Switch 2 charts. Like, even if there was something like ARMS, not even necessarily an Astral Chain, like a platinum developed game that's being published by Nintendo, but just something that's going to spark my curiosity and say, oh, this is cool. Nintendo is doing something new. And as it pertains specifically to your point about graphics, like, yo, Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined looks amazing. It
Yes.
gives me like old school Zelda feel, like A Link to the Past, but modernized, but obviously in a party type setting. And I'm
It's
like,
it's the Akira Toriyama, known for Dragon Ball. It's a variation of his artwork. It's still within that universe, right? It's still within that language of his design, but it's different enough where it's refreshing, because his art style over the years did change a little bit, but it's still that signature Toriyama style. And then with Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined, it's like it's they took an even bigger departure from his design philosophy. But it still has hints of it, but it's becoming its own thing now. And I think that's fantastic because he passed away, and right? He passed away, and another artist just imitating his artwork. It's, it's, I don't know. I think it's kind of in bad taste if you do that, but. And that's why I think Dragon Quest VII looks the way it does, is because it's respecting what came before, but kind of going in a new direction. And I applaud Square Enix for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, the game is incredible. I think it has great art direction. I'm really curious, and I think it is going to be one of the games that I end up picking up. Speaking of Square Enix, I think the fact, like, real talk, like the trailer that they showed in the direct of 7 Integrate also looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
And the thing I want to bring, like, I want to circle back to this whole conversation about pricing because it's really important. And I think that, like, what we're talking about right now is the fact that, you know, again, Nintendo, they're really misreading the room. The fact that if I wanted Mario Galaxy 2, and I really think I'm gonna skip Mario Galaxy 2. Um,
Whoa.
and the reason being is because guess what? Final Fantasy 7 Integrate is gonna be the same price. And if I
Mm,
bought the game today, I am getting the original Final Fantasy 7 as a bonus for that purchase. And I think when I'm looking at the value proposition, right? What am I investing my $40 in? I just can't help but think that this game, Final Fantasy 7 that has been ported to Switch, it looks amazing. It's a newer experience for someone like myself that hasn't played it on my PS5 or Xbox. It's just more appealing, and I think I'm gonna get more for my buck, more bang for my buck. And I think that, like, Nintendo can't keep thinking that because their properties are as iconic as they are, that they can just overcharge their hardcore fans just because. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like honestly, if Mario Galaxy 2 were $30, I wouldn't have a problem actually.
Hmm.
Right? I would have not had a problem. But the fact that they want $40 for the game, it again, and they're pricing the amiibo right there with it as a standalone, because the truth is I'm not gonna double dip on Mario Galaxy 1 plus 2, considering that I still have the 3D collection. You know what I'm saying? The All Stars collection. But I just want to say that, like, I think Square Enix had a really good showing. I also, when I think about it, like, Koei Tecmo, although I'm not interested in everything they're putting out, I think they had a good showing as well, right? Because obviously they had Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. They also had
Fatal Frame.
yes, the Fatal Frame 2 remakes, and they showed off Dynasty Warriors. And one of the things that I didn't initially realize about this direct is that it was absolutely focused on its Japanese development partners.
Hmm.
And again, it's one of those subtle things that if you're not necessarily paying attention to it, you're not going to realize it, right? But it was Nintendo, Capcom, Koei Tecmo, Square Enix. We didn't necessarily see, at least in terms of how they um, shared the time of the direct, with major Western developers. And I do think that was a misstep because, to your point, I don't know that they're incentivizing people beyond their core fans to pick up a Switch 2. I think it's going to do well this holiday. And I'm already seeing people on social media and the internet saying, like, hey, Switch 2s are available at Target or Walmart. You can just walk in and pick one up if you want one. I really was hoping that this direct was going to be the one that, for people who might have been on the fence, to say, oh, you want this console. And I don't think that they delivered on that. And, you know, like last week, we talked about a couple of things. And I was saying that I felt like, because we're approaching the holiday season so quickly, the two things that I was really hoping to see were Marvel Rivals, especially because it got announced for the PS4, and Call of Duty. And the fact that if we don't have Call of Duty this holiday season or early next year, I think it is a huge misstep on Nintendo's part in communicating the value and what makes this console special. Again, not to its core fan base, but to like the average gamer who may not necessarily be interested in a game like Final Fantasy 7 or even a Dragon Warrior 7 reimagined, right? Like I think having Call of Duty, having Marvel Rivals, which are very mainstream kind of games, I feel like they missed an opportunity here to say, hey, this our ecosystem has that as well, plus it's portable.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Again, speaking privately, uh, yeah, that's another thing that I was kind of surprised by. That you'd think they would have shown something Call of Duty, right, in this direct. Basically, the game, like you mentioned before, the casuals, right? Yeah, I guess you could say casuals, because Call of Duties, the Call of Duties, they sell, right, and usually those games would be carry along a certain kind of like uh
It's a credibility that comes with those franchises.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
but no, not credibility. It's more like atmosphere, right? It's more like an atmosphere where it's like, oh, okay, you can switch. You don't even have Call of Duty. I'm gonna play my PS5. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that for me, that translates as credibility, and the reason I say credibility specifically, and not to like get into the weeds around just like language. I think what it is with Call of Duty is when you think about the other console manufacturers, right? When you think about Sony and Microsoft, there is a reason why there has always been bundles of Call of Duty with each of those consoles.
yeah, yeah.
You can get a PS5 that comes with Call of Duty. You can pick up an Xbox Series or an Xbox One or an Xbox 360 that launched with Modern Warfare. There is a certain cachet that comes with that franchise that I think in just the gaming sphere in general and the general public, because it is such a large and popular franchise, people equate that to legitimacy in some regards. And
Yes,
again, that's
yes.
not to say that Nintendo does not have legitimacy. Of course it does. It has franchises like Zelda and Mario and Pokemon. But I think that franchise, very specifically Call of Duty, translates into the minds of people in a very different way.
Yeah,
And I was really hoping that that was gonna be shown, and they didn't show it. And I think the other thing that I want to talk about quickly before we get out of here, like, listen, I love Sakurai. Sakurai is one for the heart. He is a gamer at heart. He understands gamers. I think that when I think about what Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was, it was absolutely fan service and honoring, you know, just
history.
just history, right? And I think with Kirby Air Riders, while I'm not interested in the game, I think we'll see what his next direct has. But the thing that kind of trips me up again as an amiibo collector is that the Kirby Air Riders amiibos are going to be $50 each, which means that if you actually want to use the function of these amiibo, which are the swappable characters, you're going to need to spend $100.
Yeah.
And it's funny because everyone was like, "Oh, this is such a novel idea," and I'm like, I guess nobody paid attention to the Monster Hunter Story amiibos that originally came out for 3DS because they had swappable riders as well. But
That I didn't know too. I didn't know that
yeah,
too.
yeah, you can take the riders off and put the different riders on the different monsters. But um, the thing that I was really thinking about, and this was one of the points I was alluding to earlier, is that with the cost of amiibo, like Nintendo is putting out amiibo at $40 and $50 themselves, right? First it was Capcom with the Street Fighter amiibo, right? They're putting out Mario Galaxy 1 plus 2 at $70, which is a Switch game, the second only Switch 1 game outside of Tears of the Kingdom to be priced at that price point. And then like they show the Virtual Boy accessory, which I might pull a trigger on just because I want it as a showpiece, not because I'll actually use it. But that is $100, right? And the thing that's been occurring to me is that, again, Nintendo is really shifting their positioning in the gaming market, where they were once considered the family-friendly entry point for gaming. I think that they're no longer interested in being that. And while I still think that they are focused on being family-friendly and family-inclusive per se, in the same way that Disney is, my biggest takeaway from this direct is that Nintendo low-key is becoming a luxury brand. And it's becoming a luxury brand in the way that Apple is a luxury brand, or the way that they're positioned as a luxury brand, right? I think because of when you look at initiatives like the Mario movie, and you look at the theme parks, and now they're positioning Amiibo not to be just accessories. They're positioning them to be collectibles. You know, we had the conversation last week about like, yo, you can get a Jada Street Fighter figure for $25 to $30. That is a fully posable and articulated action figure, right? That is really cool. Nintendo is now positioning Amiibo not to be just like, hey, I'm gonna casually pick this up. It's a $40 statue. And I think that what we're seeing is that Nintendo is slowly shifting how they are positioning their brand. And to me, it's actually more akin to an Apple, you know. So like that's my biggest takeaway. And I don't know how I feel about that, because the truth of the matter is, you know, when I think about like my Switch library and what it was, like I think my Switch, I have over 350 games on a Switch. There's no way humanly possible with the prices that they are announcing right now, currently today, that I would ever build up the same type of library on Switch 2.
That's hard to say, because there will be sales.
Yes, there will be sales, but I just don't think that, again, the sales and the price points are just going to be different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think like, and that's part of what I'm saying, right? Like, I think when you look at companies like Apple, and I have friends who are executives at brands like Ralph Lauren and stuff like that, those companies are very particular in how they market their items, and they don't break price. So we know that Nintendo doesn't break price. But for example, like, you don't typically see Apple products go on sale. And when Apple is finished with a certain generation of a thing, typically what they do is like they dispose of the unsold units. It's not like they put them on the secondhand market. There's a lot of things that happen, and I think Nintendo is very much like that. But I'm gonna let you have the last word, because we only got a couple of minutes before we get out of here. So, final thoughts, Brooklyn Wolf.
It's interesting when you were talking about their image, how they're trying to elevate it through the pricing. And you made a lot of great points. I never saw it that way. But I think that's kind of what, at least for me personally, when I see it, is I always thought that Square Enix were very arrogant. They always, their games would always be just a little more expensive when compared to other third-party games. And then of course you have the naming conventions where it's like, oh my effing god, just call it 13. Stop doing this dual decimal. For example, like the handheld PSP Final Fantasy Dissidia games, right? Where it's like this naming structure is so dumb. It's the same thing for Kingdom Hearts. It's like Kingdom Hearts 13/2, or like, what? Just give it a normal naming convention. And at that point, and then seeing how the games, or was just like, always like $10 or $15 more than the other games out there. I'm like, Square Enix, what the hell are you doing? Why are you so like conceited? Why why do you think your shit should be why should they be more expensive? And what's up with these naming conventions? They're just so oh my god, there's a word for it. I can't think of it at the moment. But yeah, anyways, it's very like now I feel like Nintendo is sort of doing the same thing where it's like there's a bit of arrogance going on there. And I kind of wish they backed down a little bit. But I guess they have to please their investors, and if quote unquote uh, raising their price is going to put them as some kind of like luxury brand. I mean, I don't think they should have to do that. They're always going to be an amazing company in terms of the games they make. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of where it's headed, and I think all it's gonna take is just one misstep, and then it's gonna become like, I don't know, a better version of the Wii U, where it's where it doesn't sell as much as the Wii. You know, like I'm just using that comparison, right? Where it doesn't sell as much as the Wii, but it sold more than the Wii U, like in the in between. You know, I hope that doesn't happen. See, I'm really confused.
Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. Technical difficulties on this side. But Mike, we were just saying that, or you were responding to my thoughts around like Nintendo repositioning themselves and their brand to be a bit different, maybe a bit more high end than we've been accustomed to, because they've always been like the entry level starting point for gaming, and I think that has been a part of their identity, and I think that's one of the reasons why like it's so family friendly, because they have characters like Mario and Donkey Kong and Link, and they've been like, it's been attractive to young people, to young adults or adults at heart, or kids at heart, you know what I'm saying? But I do think they're repositioning their brands, and I do think it's a difficult thing to reckon with, because this is not the system that you can get for 250 anymore. Like it's not the system that, or the company that sells games that you're like, oh, this is a great value proposition, or as great of a value proposition as it was, you know?
What I find really funny is how we're not going to compare, right? I just find it really funny how the Xbox handheld is like 1,000 something, I think, right? Right? It's like 1,000 something. It's like, bro, we're over here talking about luxury brand. Yeah, I don't know. When you have something that costs $1,000, that is just basically a handheld PC, if anything. Yeah, that one is hard to pinpoint for me. Like, there's just no way I will ever buy something like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I get it, and I get it, and I think that like in saying luxury or more upscale, right? Like that's not to say that Nintendo doesn't attract the same audience. I think that, again, when we're talking about like the socioeconomic climate, people are still complaining about like the cost of medication or groceries, and I think what Nintendo has always afforded people in a much larger way, again, to me, has always been like this very easy entry point for gaming.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was a point where the 2DS was $100. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that if you look at the Switch's life cycle, it's 8 years, and the original Switch has never dropped price.
Yes. Yeah.
It is the first time in the history of me watching Nintendo from the NES as a kid into any console generation and never drop price. And I think that in itself is a statement that is reflective and informing what is happening now with Switch 2. So yes, are there more expensive consoles? Are there going to be more expensive pieces of tech that you can get? Absolutely. but I do think that Nintendo is no longer going to be the entry point as they were once were.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I could agree with that.
Because I think that like no matter how you spin it, $450 to $500 is a lot, and that's before you have any accessories that you might want or need, including additional Joy-Cons, controllers, or you know what I'm saying? I think that there is a difference. Like if you think about the original Switch was positioned at 299, right? And if you're talking about the Switch 2 with no game, right? That's an extra $150.
Yeah,
That is a considerable jump for someone who is interested in a thing, right? Like someone could have walked into a store 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and said, "Hey, I want to get this Nintendo thing, and I have $450." And with that, they could have gotten 2 to 3 games, right? They could have gotten a system and 2 to 3 games. Now you are only getting the set-top box. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, so it's a different kind of thing that we're seeing, and I don't know that if a lot of like the gaming media or a lot of like content creators are talking about it or even pointing this out, but it's definitely something that I've been paying attention to and I'm watching because, again, as an amiibo collector, I've been trying to like complete my amiibo collection, right? Like I go hunting and I'll like scour Macari and YouTube and trying to get like good prices on amiibo that I might have missed. But like with the new amiibo, for like the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years, or even maybe a little bit longer, I've been able to keep up with all the new releases. I pre-order them. This is the first time ever that I'm just like, yo, I put the amiibos in my cart in Best Buy, and I was like, this is crazy. It's $300 for 7 amiibo.
Yeah.
No BS. Like it is $300 for the 7 amiibo.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, like, this is ridiculous. I don't know if I can keep doing this. It is the
Yeah.
first time that I have personally thought to myself, I can't keep doing this.
Honestly, I think this is a moment where you may have to reevaluate your support for Nintendo, right? I think if we all want to see lower prices, I think we need to start letting Nintendo know that, hey, look, when GameStop, for example, right? I'm pretty sure when GameStop put up all the Switch 2 launch amiibos for sale, I'm pretty sure they started selling. I'm pretty sure they did. And I'm pretty sure Nintendo will see the numbers and be like, maybe we were a bit overzealous, right? Where we got a little too cocky. We priced a standard amiibo at $40. Okay, maybe we could bring it down a little bit, right? So maybe we don't buy the first initial launch of the next amiibo, right? Like for example, the Metroid ones. Like when they come out, just be like, okay, I want to get them, but not at this price point. And then they're gonna warm the shelves, undoubtedly. And then when GameStop or Best Buy has a not clearance, but a limited time sale of these amiibo, then you get them then, right?
For sure.
I think that's the only way to send a message to Nintendo. Speak
I,
with your wallet.
Absolutely. And I think that that is something that's happening. And I feel like it's really alarming because I just don't know that everyone recognizes very specifically the power of that. And so, like, and I think, like, again, like, and just kind of closing out a little bit, I think that this is part of the issue here, right? There's a twofold problem that I personally, and again, I could be wrong. Nintendo could show up in January and just like blow my mind. But right now, considering that the Switch is 3 months old, we're going into prime holiday season where people are looking to get gifts and things of that nature. Again, I don't know that they've convinced someone who doesn't already own the Switch to switch to that they need one. But I think the other thing that they have really shown to me is that, like, like I don't know that I'm going to be spending the same way that I did with previous generations of Nintendo products. You know what I mean? Like I would love for nothing more than to be able to say, oh, I'm gonna pick up every Switch 2 game or first party game for that matter. And the truth is, I think I'm gonna have to exercise a bit more discretion and be a bit more like financially responsible because, like if every game I want is $70 and I know that the first party games don't go on sale, if it's not a must have, and the must haves for me are a very limited list of franchises. Like when I think about like games that I must have the day they come out that are made by Nintendo, it's typically like 3D Mario, Zelda, um, and I would say to a lesser extent Metroid, which I love as a franchise. But outside of those, like Yoshi, I would pick that up later. Mario Aces, I'd pick that up later. Even Fire Emblem, I would pick that up later. I feel like I picked up Fire Emblem like Three Houses, maybe 6, 7 months after the game initially launched, after all of the critical hype, all of the discourse happened. So, I just think it's something to consider.
Yeah, same here in terms of spending. And you know me, right? I think whoever's listening to this will call me fucking insane, but I buy physical, and to keep that game quote unquote pristine, I buy the digital version as well, right? And you can, I think we could all acknowledge that that's pretty hardcore or pretty dumb, right? Depending on who you ask. But yeah, I just like to collect games, and I don't want to keep switching cartridges, so I'll also buy the digital for convenience sake. But at least at the same time, I have the physical cartridge. Now, bro, because of the asinine key cards, it's pretty clear. It's obvious. I just buy the digital. If I really want to buy the game, like for example, I made the exception for Street Fighter 6. I bought the game digitally. I'm not going to buy the key card. So, in other words, Capcom lost out on another sale from me, right? Same thing's gonna happen for Final Fantasy VII. Crisis Core, I have the digital and physical. Onimusha, I have the physical and digital. And now with Final Fantasy VII being confirmed as a key card, which is not surprising considering it's 90 something gigs and the largest capacity is 64 gigs. Yeah. So my hope is when hopefully Nintendo and whatever manufacturer they go to for this, they start producing larger cards, and hopefully someday in the future, like a limited run can say, hey, we're gonna produce the physical version of the Final Fantasy VII trilogy. But for now, sticking with my main point is these companies are only getting. I'm only buying one this time. I'm not buying two. So in other words, I guess I'm saving money, right? By only buying the digital now. Yeah. So just like I'm affected in a different way. I guess.
For sure. And listen, for those who are just kind of like tapping in with us, and this is like you're just like discovering the podcast and whatnot. This is Brooklyn Wolf the Collector. Like this is like hearing you say that, it means a lot because you're someone who, you pick up Hot Toys and like these really premium action figures and things like that. So like for someone such as yourself who is legitimately, it's in your name, you're the collector, right? If Nintendo's pricing is at the point where it's impacting your decisions on how you support or patronize the company, I think it says a lot. You know what I mean? Again, like we're talking from different points, but like again, if I look at my Nintendo, what is it? What are they called now? Virtual game cards, right?
Yeah.
If I go to my virtual game card list, it literally says 300. Actually, I'm going to look. I think it's 368. It is 368 games over the course of what has been a lifespan of 8 years, which you're almost like you can round up to 400. That means I'm purchasing almost 50 games a year. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lot. So
Yeah,
if
so
if
look at my end, right? Where if I had 300 digital games,
hmm
that means I technically have 600 games,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's doubled. Because these games, I told you, I would buy digital and physical.
So yeah, I mean, listen, I think that Nintendo has to be careful. They are treading very muddy waters, I think, right now in terms of how they are communicating what the Switch 2's value proposition is just in general.
Yeah.
I think that we want like I want Nintendo to win. Let me just say that. Like I love Nintendo. I've grown up with Nintendo. Like I want them to win. But I do think like as I'm paying attention to what's happening, it's a little concerning. And
I
you
mean,
know,
they did win. It's just that you want to see them either maintain or go even further. Right now, I feel like they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of like they reached the top of the hill, but someone forgot to put the parking brake on, and they're sort of going backwards. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know?
yeah, man. It is very interesting to see what's happening. And again, like like this conversation has kind of shifted from the direct to of a more of a business kind of conversation around Nintendo and what's happening. And I think that you want to start paying attention. I encourage anyone who's actually listening to please like think about gaming in this way because I think like a lot of times when we're making predictions or we're looking at the things that we like and dislike, it's all informed by like business practices and business strategies, right? And I think you can tell a lot about a company and where they're going or what is driving how they're operating. And I think that Nintendo has been incredibly profitable for a long time. Again, like the Switch 1 was already old hardware when it came out. So the fact that they never dropped price on the Switch 1, considering that the component parts were probably getting cheaper year by year. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it was already old by the time it came out, like, it doesn't cost that much to manufacture a Switch 1. But they never broke price. I think it has slowly been communicating something that we have to pay attention to, which is that they are positioning themselves a little bit differently. They want to be regarded in the same way that Disney is, in the same way that Apple is, in the same way that Samsung is, as premium products. And that's cool, rightfully so. But I think that, it's just really paying attention to how we are impacted as the consumers of said products. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But listen, man, this has been a dope, dope, dope episode 2 of the podcast. I love this. I want to thank everyone who has listened to the first episode, who has shown any love. I really encourage you to follow the channel WaggleFest on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I also encourage you very much to support and subscribe to my co-host, Brooklyn Wolf the Collector. You're officially the co-hosts.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys are up on this Blasian combination. But as always, y'all, thank y'all for listening. Please leave your comments, feedback, all that good stuff. It matters. Every like, every thumbs up, every share matters. So yes, please subscribe to WaggleFest and to Brooklyn Wolf the Collector on YouTube and all of our affiliated social media accounts.
Take care.
Peace.